Hello and welcome to the story behind the story for February 18th, 2021. Always amazing. How do we get around to that time of the calendar already? Halfway through February. I'm Ken Waddell, publisher and editor of the Neepawa Banner Press, and we're going to review the stories in this week's paper. I'm pleased to have with me Casper, Wehrhahn, who is a key person in our news department. She handles a lot of our historical stuff. Looking back through the years. In fact, we have 3 history type things in the paper this week. We'll try and bring a mention to all of them. So, Casper, thank you for being with us again. I know you've been on the show many times. I haven't been on for a long time because of a number of things, and always been capably replaced by Owen Devereaux, who we gave him a couple of days off, and by Casper and by Kira Patterson. So, good to be back, and we have a nice paper this week. The front page is kind of interesting. Just give you a quick sneak peek there. It's a photo by John Luigi Pito, who does a lot of photography in the area here, a relative newcomer to Neepawa, and he does a lot of drone work, plus regular camera work. And it's a little fuzzy, but it's just the way it is with a picture like that. It's a picture of the Northern Lights. And quite a brilliant one too as well. So John's done a good job there. I don't stay up late enough to see Northern Lights.
Well, it's hard to as well with all of the light pollution. Sort of cancels things out. You see less stars and whatnot. But you know, they got a really good shot here on that front page. You know, just absolutely vibrant. So definitely check that out when you pick up the paper.
Yeah, and I don't know what time of night the Northern Lights come out. It's been so darn cold there that my either my office chair or my easy chair has won the battle for being out at nights lately anyway. But Casper, you've been on the show many times and you've been through this many times. Tell us what you think about the COVID-19, where we're at today, where we've been. It's been a long haul. It's been a year. We've been fighting through this thing, and what are your thoughts about this week's update and about the whole pandemic in general?
I think it's pretty much same thoughts as usual. It's been a long but kind of fast year, sort of in between. There's so much happening and also just somehow not much happening. But our most recent update is that as of February 16th, there's been just over 2% of Manitobans that have received both doses of COVID-19. 34,859 have only received the first dose, and 21,185 people have received the second dose. As well, there are some updates to our case numbers. Right now, Prairie Mountain Health has, from February 10th to February 16th, 19 new cases, so that's a significant drop from our 39 cases that we had last week. So it's dropping, that's good. Hopefully it stays that way and we keep on that trend. Currently, in regards to the province as a whole, we have the northern region with the most COVID-19 cases. They're currently sitting at 783, so not doing too good up there. But hopefully we see that taking a better turn soon.
Yeah, it's been a long haul. There's no question about it. It's just making some notes here for another topic I just spotted in the paper. There's a lot of frustration out there, and gradually things are opening up. But I personally think that we should be opening things up a little faster and a little more practically. I know that it's really, really tough on the restaurants right now because they can only have a table of 5 and they have to all be from the same household. And a couple of people have said to me, I want to go out for dinner with somebody else. I don't want to be with the people I've been living with for the last year. And that's a frustration out there that hopefully will get addressed fairly soon. So. And that, speaking of that, restaurants on page 7, we have a list, a small list. It's by no means complete, but of the various restaurants etc. Maybe just review that, would you please, Casper?
Yes, absolutely. So there's restaurants listed on there, and some other establishments as well, such as Whitey's Fitness. With the new restrictions, places are able to reopen if they fit the current guidelines. However, it's only if they choose to. So there are some places that are currently choosing to stay open either until the restrictions update or they have fully evaluated how the current restrictions will work for them. And in that list right now, we've got Boston Pizza, which has chosen to reopen its restaurant and lounge in Neepawa at 25% capacity. Chicken Corral is currently not reopening to public dining, so that will stay takeout. The Dairy Queen as well will remain closed for indoor dining to the public at this time. Brews Brothers is going to open for limited capacity. Whitey's is remaining closed temporarily, evaluating the current restrictions, how that will affect them. The Cornerstone Grill in Manitoba will open for limited to household members only for indoor dining, no more than 5 people at a table. Farmhouse 50, also in Manitoba, will not open to the public, but takeout orders will be available. And Rosie's Country Cafe and Bakery has opened for limited dine-in seating for only 1 household. If we did miss any of you out there who are choosing to open or are choosing to close, please send us your information and we will happily get it in there.
Yeah, for sure. And you can get a hold of us by phoning 204-476-3401. That's maybe the quickest way. Or else you can email news@neepawabanner.com. And that would be good too. We have another little, not exactly dining, but dining entertaining story. And it is kind of an entertaining story because the Neepawa Roxy Theater had a 2-day popcorn-a-thon. That's my name, not theirs. Anyway, they were popping up a storm there, and I know one day they sold well over 80 bags of popcorn. It wasn't as many the next day, but people were buying popcorn. We got a cute picture there. Kay Diath, who works here at the Banner, and Kira Patterson, who also works here. Kay is a volunteer with the Roxy Theater, and they were popping up popcorn and selling it out the front door there to beat the band. And my wife ended up with 2 bags. I'm not sure why, because I don't eat much popcorn. But anyway, she eats lots of popcorn. But anyway, she made poppycock with her popcorn. Now that's good. I can go for that. Anyway, so they had a nice fundraiser there, so that was good. Very innovative. And they're longing for the day when they can open their doors and show movies again. It's been a tough year for the Roxy. It's been a tough year for moviegoers because there hasn't been many movies. Anyway, as usual, I did an editorial this week. It's in here somewhere. And I'm suggesting that maybe it's time to move forward. And it kind of takes off on a column my wife Christine did last week, which was a very strongly stated case that in the care homes during COVID-19 that we should have allowed more volunteers and family members in to help. Very simple. And yes, there's some risk, but there's on a percentage basis or on a per person basis, there's no greater risk having a staff person come in or have a family member come in. As long as you know who they are and they're tested and precautions are taken, the risk would not have been any greater. And certainly it would be hard to imagine in the care homes that had a lot of deaths that the results could have been any worse if there had been volunteers in place. And so that was the case there. But going forward, so that all those deaths, 800 and some deaths in Manitoba, many of them in care homes, are not in vain, I'm sincerely asking people to phone or email me And you can email me at kwaddell@neepawabanner.com. That's kwaddell@neepawabanner.com. And I'm breaking a tradition here, or a rule, and that is that we always ask for a signature on a letter to the editor, or a thumbs up, or whatever. And you can do that if you wish. But if there is situations that you know about, not just heard about, but you know about, where things didn't go right in working with the COVID-19, especially in the care homes, I'd like to hear about it. And we'd like to publish those thoughts anonymously, so that there can be some learning from this. So those 870 odd deaths are not in vain. I think it would be honoring to them and to their families if we can draw out any lessons from this to avoid such a situation again. A very serious topic, but I am serious about this. I want to know. You know, we lost 8 or 9 people not that far away in the Mercury care home. I don't know if something went wrong there, but if there was, let's find out what it was and avoid it in the future. In the care homes anywhere in Manitoba, especially the big ones in Winnipeg, where they lost dozens of lives, let's find out if something could have been done better to extend the lives of those people who were dear loved ones to somebody. Just saying. Anyway, you're a big hockey fan, Casper? No, you're not.
No, I take photos sometimes, but
Yeah,
I think that's the extent of how that goes.
You do a good job. Good, you do a good job. On page 18, we have an article about the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, and it's shut down for the year, understandably. Not because they wanted to, not because they weren't taking all our precautions. They, in fact, were leaders in how they handled the crowds and COVID, but they're not going to go again this year. So next year, country. But there's a small change in how they're doing things too, and the draft is going to move up a year. So 16-year-olds will be the draft going forward, and so there won't be a draft this year. And it was just felt by the league and by many people in the hockey world that one more year of AAA midget would be good for the players, and then they could be in a better position to be drafted into the MJHL. Page 7, Casper, you can talk about that one. My voice is starting to go, I'm sorry.
No, that is quite all right.
Page 7, tell us a little bit about the Sportsman's Dinner.
Yes.
And then you did up a story about the thimble there. Just go for it. Tell us about those 2 stories.
Absolutely. So Manitoba had a meeting there of the council on February 9th. There were a few things that came out of that, but one of the top notable items there included an update from the Manitoba and District Recreation Commission, and that was in regards to the annual Sportsman Dinner. Now, unfortunately, that has been canceled this year. There will also be no spring or fall grants issued by the Recreation Commission in 2021. Another item was that the Recreation and Culture Committee has revised the proposed campground relocation project for 2021. There's a few other items in there and some miscellaneous items, so do be sure to check out those full details on page 7, as we mentioned. And moving over to a bit of history, this was an unexpected item here, and I'm glad we were able to get this information from Michael Guire of Manitoba. He was sort of sifting through some purchases that he made a few years ago and found this thimble, and it had a engraving on it which read R.T. Butchart, Manitoba, and got him curious, and he decided to do some digging there, see what he could find in some research. And there's a few local connections there, actually. He found out that Butchart was born in Ontario on July 29th, 1866. And by the time of the 1901 federal census, he was actually in Neepawa working as a railway agent. And then 10 years later, he moved to Manitoba and was a druggist there and spent the rest of his life there. So there's a bunch more detail on him there, including service as the mayor for that town, and some details on his son who gave his life at Vimy Ridge. So be sure to check that out. And if you have anything else like this that's related to the Banner Press coverage area, or even just like a cool piece of personal family history that you'd like to share with us, please send that over to us. We would be happy to feature that in our paper.
Cool. It's interesting this came up because one little wee thing, it's a thimble. It fits on the end of your finger. It's a tiny item. And yet to have so much story behind it, it's pretty fascinating. I had a similar experience there earlier in the year visiting a friend, and he said, well, here's a picture, beautiful framed picture. And it was a bunch of gentlemen dressed up, in jackets and whatever, with guns, rifles. And they were part of a shooting club from 1900. But he says, I don't know who they are. And I said, I think I've seen this picture before. Sure enough, it was in the 1983 Neepawa history book, and the names were there. So this person was happy to find the names because one of them was an ancestor of his, and who the neighbors were and whatever. It's always interesting to find out all these kind of stories here. So this R.T. Butcher one is totally news to me. I had no idea that the person existed, that they were in Neepawa, they were in Minnedosa. Pharmacy, right? Pharmacist, I believe it says, yeah. And then that tragic end piece there about, they raised their son who went to war and lost his life at Vimy Ridge. How tragically and terribly Canadian this story is. Somebody moves west, changes careers a couple of times, raises a family, and then lost a son in the First World War. It's a very tragically but almost typical Canadian story from the 1900s. Anyway, on page 10, I didn't read this story all that much. It was a submitted story, I think. And do you know the background on this a bit? There's a couple of ladies are publishing books, and they're supporting. I will have to read the story. I haven't read this. Anyway, they're publishing books to raise funds. Do you know a little more about this story?
A little bit, yes. I did highlight some points there. But yeah, it's a Gladstone-based publishing duo that has, I believe, jump-started this effort here. It is Rhiannon Parks and J.A. Armitage. And authors around the globe are involved in this as well. They're putting together some stories that have new twists on classic fairy tales. It's a collaborative effort, of course, as we mentioned. And it's called Enchanted Kingdoms. It will be an ebook box set of 20 novels. And series features a variety of genres, including high fantasy, epic fantasy, paranormal romance, urban fantasy, historical fantasy, and fairy tale retellings, all suitable for young adults, which will release on February 23rd. And it's a big cause here, actually. This will help children with autism because all funds are being donated to the Puzzle Piece United organization, which is a New Jersey-based charity that supports children with autism and their families. So it's a really cool story there, and it sounds like it's pretty interesting. So definitely check that out on page 10 and learn a bit more.
I always find this fascinating because, every home, every business, there's a story. There's a story to be told, and fascinating stuff. Casper and I are really efficient. Like, we've really roared through this here thing. So we're going to go back through the paper again and pick up a couple other stories that weren't on the list. And one is that the local co-op, Neepawa Gladstone Co-op, they raised a bunch of money at their various locations with cash donations and percentage of sales and everything else. And in total, with everything that came together from a bunch of different sources, it was $10,751 was raised for Salvation Army, and it looks like $10,499 for Neepawa District Palliative Care. So two great causes there that enhance the quality of life and care for people in this area. So kudos to the co-op for doing that. It's pretty fine print here, but on page 2, the Neepawa Chamber of Commerce, and good on them, they've taken an initiative here. They're going to run a bingo for 8 weeks. And the bingo card's in the paper. You can clip it out. Yes, you can cut it out of the paper. It doesn't matter. And use it. You go around to various businesses and take pictures of yourself, different places, and submit your bingo card. And there'll be a draw made. There's a special prize if you complete the whole bingo card. And it's to be submitted to the chamber, and they will be handing out prizes here at the end of or as the bingo goes along. So you might want to take a look at that. On page 3 of the paper, I want to draw your attention to NAC TV. And we're broadcasting here on the television station 24 hours a day. And the big story this year is the bingo. A year ago or more, we would sell 60 cards, maybe a week. I think we had a story on this last week in the paper. And this week, I think it was 245 cards. Thank you for your support for that. But it's also a great thing because something you can do inside with your kids at home where it's warm. We have lots of letters to the editor this week. We have one from Letter Paramore. Fancy that. We should take account of how many letters has written to me in the past 31 years. It's quite a few, but anyway.
It was kind of unusual too, because he wasn't doing any digs at you this week, was he? He was actually quite thankful for the paper, and he pointed out that there could be more advertising in the paper, and as a free paper, that is so true, especially since it is locally run. We rely on advertising to get this paper to you, and if we didn't have that advertising, well, there wouldn't be a paper. So if you do want to do some advertising with us, be sure to contact us at ads@neepawabanner.com. We would greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Casper, for mentioning that. In the last little while, we've had to incur some extra costs. We've increased our circulation so that now we're in every household in St. Rose. And that's 65 miles, roughly, north of Neepawa. And paper goes to about 35 miles south of Neepawa. We go past Carberry. We go to Newdale on the west, and we go to Lakeland, Langruth on the east. So we're about 9,600 papers every week now, and goes out every Friday. In fact, we're out on Thursdays now because we've had to go some extra costs with trucking, traveling, and that is Canada Post, as you may have read about in my columns, are really bogged down, plugged up in their Brandon warehouse. And so the papers go there, then come back out to the towns. And we had 2 instances we know of for sure where the papers were a week late. So good old Ken, he puts an end to that. We're trucking the papers. In fact, as we are taping this show on a Thursday morning, the trucks are on the road delivering to Manitoba and to Eden, Burnie, Riding Mountain, Kelwood, Laurier, McCreary, St. Rose, Minnedosa, and as the day goes on, be Mountain Road, Glenella, and Plumas. Gladstone gets their papers first thing Friday morning. So extra costs there. So yes, if you can see a need for your business to advertise, and we hope you do, in the Neepawa Banner, as Casper said, send your ads to ads@neepawabanner.com. So we had, as I say, letters to the editor this week. We've had, of course, Helen's recipes and a history of Eden of Canada. I apologize, my voice is catching me up here a little bit. There was something else we did this week, just as an extra for fun thing. Just got to find it here. I asked Casper to go down into our archives, and there's the picture there. It's a little hard to read because the page was much bigger back in the day, so I had to reduce down. But this is from the same week, but from 1921, 100 years ago, and I think you'll find it interesting. lots of ads in there, and they're on the front page. But anyway, we have a profile on Ben Saunderson, who is going to be going on to play hockey this year at a higher level. And we have lots of stories from Gladwin Scott, big classified section. So anyway, do you have any closing thoughts on this week's paper there, Casper, before we wind it up and make one more shameless plug for advertising?
Well, we do have, of course, our weekly looking back here. And if you enjoy this section, we'd be happy to hear your thoughts on it. We only hear every so often about the paper in passing or third party passed on to us. So we always are happy to hear feedback. If there's something you'd like to see me try and find a bit more on, I can certainly do that. All really depends what's in there that I can pluck out, but I will do my best. But a couple items in here is in 1961, a new rink opened at Amaranth, and I have to admit, I don't know where Amaranth is. I would have to Google it, as they say. But volunteer labor built a 2-sheet curling rink, which opened January 30th that year, to be exact. Workers sawed up towards some 17,000 feet of lumber to do that job. And we were kind of talking in the office about the photo for this event here, because the archives has this inset photo of some MLAs, I believe. And just with how it looks, there's no clear separation with how they set up the photo. So it kind of looks like there's this giant person standing behind the rink there doing a little speech or something. So we had a good laugh about that. There was one other item here I wanted to point out, so I don't know if I can find it now. Let's see.
Just while Casper is looking there, we have nearly every paper of the Neepawa Press in our archives, safely stored away in our building here, back to 1896. Nearly every one. And we have every one of the Neepawa Banner back to 1989. So we are well equipped with archives here. So we've just got our 2-minute warning here to wind up the show, so we'll do that. Did you find that one there?
Yes. There was also, in 1961, the Kelwood Sewing Club became the first 3-time winner of the Neepawa District Chamber of Commerce Trophy, which was presented annually to district clubs judged to have made the best all-round year performance. As well, there was a little bit of a blurb in 1981 about the weather. Interestingly enough, they were taking a little jab about how the weather is being played out. They were wondering, where did winter go? Is it April? No, still February. But they had quite the spread of temperatures there. The way they laid it out there, they said they had a spread of 41.5 degrees Celsius in 5 days. February 10th, the temperature had gone down to minus 34.5. And that was one of the coldest days recorded at Neepawa in the past 17 years. Wow. For the entire month of February.
Thank you for that. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. It's good to have you. If you want to get a hold of us, you can email us at news@neepawabanner.com, or for advertising, ads@neepawabanner.com. You can always phone us at 204-476-3401, or drop in to see us at 423 Mountain Avenue. It's been good to be with you. On behalf of Casper, Wehrhahn, and myself, Ken Waddell, publisher of the Neepawa Banner Press, thank you for being with us. And somebody from the paper will be with you next week. Thank you very much.